Welcome back, guys. Hope you're doing great. Well, this is the day 2 series of our full stack Spotify clone by using Next.js and TypeScript along with Supabase and along with the Stripe International Payment Gateway, right? So if you haven't watched the day 1 of the series, so don't worry, guys. I dropped a link in the description. So I already attached the playlist of the series in the description below. So please go ahead and watch it first. So in the day 1, we successfully finished the layout and structuring of our UI completely. You can see we have the layout and it's completely responsive. Now all we have to do is to connect our Supabase with our Next.js project. So without wasting your time further, let's jump into the video. All right. So now let's open up your browser and search for Supabase. If you search for supabase.com, there you can see their official website, right? All you have to do is to go ahead and click this dashboard over here. If you haven't created an account in this Supabase before, don't worry, please go ahead and use your Gmail to authenticate yourself with their website and create an account yourself and click this dashboard. That will takes you to their official dashboard. So in this case, if you wish to create a new organization, so first what you have to do is, for very first time, you need to create yourself an organization to manage all your Supabase projects, right? In this case, I already do have one project over here, and you can see this is under my organization because I authenticated myself by using my GitHub, right? So if you wish to create a new project over here, all you have to do is to create a new project under this organization. Okay, so now I need to give the name, so I'm just going to give YouTube Spotify Clone or something. So I need to use the password. I need to give some password, so it should be strong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click generate password. So that's going to generate me a password. Then I need to save this password somewhere else highly secure and safe. So what I'm going to do is, I'm in the root of our project, I'm going to create a new file called password.txt, right? So here I'm going to paste it. So this is the password of my database, but I need to avoid pushing this file into the GitHub. So what I have to do is I need to go to the git ignore from right after here, the place where we are using environment local. So right after here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say avoid the local password file. So let's say password.txt. So once you hit save option, so now you can see this password.txt. You can see the color differentiation between these files, right? Because these files, you can see it's highlighted, and this file, it's a little bit look at the color of the file, it's a little bit dim, right? The reason is because this file will be ignored by the time whenever you're trying to push it into the GitHub. So now I can avoid this file pushing this open password into our GitHub by the time when you're planning to upload it to the GitHub later, right? So now what I have to do is, I'm just going to choose the default location what it's suggesting me. I'm just going to leave it as it is, or you can choose your nearmost locations from here, anywhere, that's up to you. In this case, I'm just going to create new project. So that's going to create a new project for myself. This will take a few seconds, and here we go. So now you can see we have the different options, how, like, you can see all the informations which is related to this database, the project API keys, right? So we have the public URL, and we have the service role, and we have the ANN key, public ANN key of the Supabase, and you can see the different documentations to work with the different platforms over here, right? So Supabase is a perfect alternative for the Firebase, which is quite exactly the same as the Firebase. Whatever you can do with the Firebase, we can go with the Supabase also. The advanced and the advantage of using the Supabase, it's because it's providing us some of the UI components to work along with the Supabase. That's the beautiful thing with this, right? So now what I have to do is I'm just going to click connect. So okay, so here, these are the API keys. You can see this is the next public Supabase URL, and this is the ANN key. And yep, so suddenly something changed. What happened? Project status, everything is okay. So home, util clone, Oh, here it is. I was wondering where that key it is. So suddenly everything I lost it. Okay, so view API settings. Yep, here we go. So now I have all these over here. So okay, so under the view API settings, you can see all your API keys over here, right? So if you are wondering how to get those, the along with the environment variables and all those things, you can click over here. Wait a second. Where it is? Mm, mm, mm. Okay, so over in the home, you can see we have the options called connect. If you click the connect option, you can choose the URI. Under the URI, you can see we have different frameworks over here. URIs are app frameworks or ORMs. In this case, we are going to use the app frameworks, and I'm going to use the Next.js. I'm going to use, we are defaultly using the app router, and we are using with Supabase.js. That's the package that we are trying to use, right? In this case, this is the API key, right? This is the thing that we have to use, right? And you can see this is the URL, the public URL that we have to use inside our environment variable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new environment variable in our local file .env, and I'm going to ignore that env file. So .env. So make sure that file it's been ignored, right? So over here now you have to copy this and paste it over here. Next equals to, then copy this to anon key and paste it over here. And just like the same way, we have to create one more. Then don't worry about that. Let's get back over there. So here, if you scroll down, you can see all your project APIs and everything. So click this view API settings. So that will takes you to that API settings over here of that specific project. Now we have the Supabase URL, which we have generated. Then we have the Supabase anon key, which we also have over here. Now we have to generate for the service role too. So that's what we are going to do now. All right. So in this case, what we can do is I'm just going to, let's keep it. Let's keep this env file name as rename dot local. That's better, right? Because let's keep that file. So anyways, you can see that file also be ignored. Okay, so over here now what we have to do is I have to create the Supabase service role key. This is one we need to get it. So over here, so please make sure that you're typing it properly. Supabase, see, Supabase 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 underscore service 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 underscore role underscore key equals to, right? So let's copy this URL. So copy this and paste it over here, and let's copy the anon key, copy this and paste it over here, and then click reveal option, then click copy and paste your service role over here. These are the things. So save the changes. Now you have to restart your server, and you can see it's already reloaded the environment variable, but anyways you can see it's loading the environment.local file, which means all these keys are being loaded successfully in our project. Okay, so now let's have a look over here. We're having a different sets of options over here: home, table editor, SQL editor, database, and all those things. For instance, if you click this database options, you can see we have a bunch of options: the triggers, roles, webhooks, and lots of options. Creating a new table is quite easier over here. All you have to do is to create a name and type the field name, what are the options that you need for each and every field. So creating everything, it's quite easy, just like how we used to work in SQL. And if you go to the authentication part, and there you can see this will help you to send the invitations for the users. So if you're willing to create a new user, you can directly click send invitations. That will send the invitation for the user to authenticate themselves to this website over here, right? And if you click this email templates, so this email templates will help you to send an email. For instance, every time whenever the user signed up, it will send a confirmation link to sign to approve themselves. So If you click the preview, this is how it looks. So you can customize the complete template over here. And it's all about the basic HTML and CSS. You can generate your own template by using logos and images and all those things. Then you can use these variables according to that inside your template, so that will immediately work in that exact same way, right? And you can see for invite and for the magic link and for the change email password, reset password, for each and every actions we do have the email template settings over here. And also if you want to customize the policies also, you can for change your RLS policies over here. So quite everything is exactly, it's completely user friendly over here, right? And here you can find this SQL editor over here. So all you have to do is to click this SQL editor. So this will help you to customize, write your own custom queries over here, right? So otherwise, or you can see, click the quick start and you can see different templates over here, countries, Slack clone, for a complete Slack clone. If you wish to build a complete Slack clone, so that's going to give you the all the necessary tables for that particular project will be automatically generated. In this, for example, in this case, we're going to use this Stripe subscriptions. So maybe in the future, by the time if you're watching, this might be removed by the Supabase, or it might be altered, or it might be in a different location. So you guys have to search for this template, and you can click this and we can create that Stripe subscription tables and everything. Now all we have to do is to go ahead and create that. So now all you have to do is to click this Stripe subscription. So you can find this complete code which is necessary to work along with this Stripe subscriptions over here, right? So we need this. So all I have to do is to click this run option. So that's going to create the necessary tables for this Stripe subscription. So if you can't find this, just go to the SQL editor, and there you can find the templates, and you can find it over here. If you can't, go for the quick start, you can find it over here. Maybe in future, by the time if you are watching it, if you find any other options over here, so please take your time to figure it out, the Stripe subscriptions, or I will provide this Stripe subscription code in the gist file in the link in the description below. So please go ahead and click that, and you can copy all these codes and you can execute and you can follow along with this video, right? So I'm just going to run this, click run, and that's going to run it. And you can see success and no rows has been written because we don't have any data over here. And get back to the table editor, and there you can find all the customers, prices, product subscriptions, and the users, which is highly necessary for this complete project. So these are all created by that Stripe subscriptions template, right? You can see for the user, we have the UUID, full name, avatar, URL, building address, payment method, all the necessary information. For subscriptions, you can see all the necessary informations are here, which user subscribed it, what is the status, and what is the metadata information, what is the price ID, quantity, cancel period ends. So all the necessary things are being successfully created over here. Okay, all right. So now we can see along with that we do have this this policies also, where it is. If you click the customers, you can see we can add the RLS policies. If you click the subscriptions over here, you can see we have an auth policy over here. So we can customize these RLS policies for each and every tables. Whatever the tables that you do have, you can customize the RLS policies for each and every table. So now all we have to do is to go ahead and create some few more tables over here, and we can start customizing the policies too, right? So let's go ahead and create all the necessary tables one after another, and along with that we start customizing the RLS policies too. All right. All right then, so now what we have to do is we have to create the necessary table. So I already opened the previous project which I already created for the practice session. So over here we can see we have to create this exact same songs tables with this exact same fields over here. So now let's go here and click over here to create a new table. So click new table. So that's going to bring this the options over here. So I'm going to name the table as songs, right? and I'm going to leave the descriptions as empty. Okay. So over here, you can see we have to fill all these necessary columns over here. So in this case, I'm going to keep this ID column exactly as the same int as exactly the same thing. And of course, for the created as, we're going to use this timestamp. Okay, the timestamp, and we are going to use the now function. Then we have to create one more column, which is going to be the title, and this is going to be the text type. Okay, so you can see what else we need to bring. We have to bring the title, song URI, image URI, and user ID, and this artist ID. We don't have this artist yet, so we have to create that artist ID. We have to come back and update this table also, right? So okay, so now all I have to do is to get back here. So let's create a new column over here. So I'm going to create this as song underscore URI, which is going to be exactly the same as text field. And we need the cover image for the song too. So image underscore URI, and that is also going to be the text. And let's bring this, what is that, user ID thing. So which user created that song? So user underscore ID, and this okay, so this is nullable unique. So okay, so here now no, this is supposed to be link field, so we should not all right, sorry, my bad. So for the user ID, we choose this UUID over here, right? This unique identifier. This is not supposed to be. So let's delete that. I'm going to create it one more time, and I'm going to keep this as user underscore ID. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the foreign key relationship, but it's changed because last week when I'm working with this, because we have a link button over here, but currently it's completely changed. The UI is changed over here. See how fast they are changing the UI. So now what you have to do is to click this add foreign key relationship, or you can find a link, a chain link option over here. So choose that. So click that, and you have to choose the table. So you have to keep the schema as public, and you have to choose the table which you are trying to relate to. So I'm trying to create a foreign relationship for this user table, right? And for the actions over here, so here we need to choose the ID. So this public songs. So what field that we are trying to map? So this is the field that we are trying to map, user ID. So that user ID needs to map with this UUID. So that's the field that it needs to be mapped, right? Then for this actions, choose the cascade. So you can see the cascade. Updating a record from the public user will also update any records that references in this table, which refers to this particular ID. So that's the reason we are choosing it for cascade. So if you are deleting that particular that data, which is for, so if you delete any data from the foreign table, that's going to affect the main primary table too. If you're deleting anything from the primary table also, so it's going to delete the referenced table also. That's the reason we are using the cascade, right? Now it is mapped properly, and if you click save, and you can see we successfully created a foreign key relationship over here, right? So just like the same way, now we have to do the same thing for the artist ID too. So I'm going to create this artist underscore ID. So far I don't have anything, so I'm just going to keep this as time being as a text itself. I'm going to save this because I know I don't have the artist table. So let's go ahead and create the artist table. Then we can create the we can customize that foreign key relationship with the song ID and all those things, right? So over here you can see this is also mapped with the artist ID, right? So I'm just going to get back to the artist table over here, artist, and let me edit this table, and you can see these are the necessary fields that we need to have with the artist. So And you can see now we successfully created the songs field, and you can see it's songs fields and everything, it's been created, but we don't have any RLS policies for this. So if you click this before creating the for a new table for the artist, we need to add this RLS policy, the role level security we need to add the policy for the songs. Like, okay, so click this new policy over here, and you can see we have get started and for full customization. So click this get started option. So you can see we have a different templates over here. So enable read access to everyone. Of course, we need to give read access to everyone so they can read the data. So even if the user is signed in or if the user is not authenticated, they should be able to see the data what we have listed on the website, right? So click use this template, don't change anything else, and then click review and click save this policy, right? So now we have successfully added one policy for this songs. Now click this new policy and click this quick start option, and of course we need to add insert this access. So insert access for the authenticated users only, and for this one use this template, insert for authenticated users only, click review and click save policy. Okay, so now the authenticated users can insert these songs over here. And then for if you wish to do the same thing for delete, also delete access for the user based the user ID, and this is based in update access. No, so we need to give this delete access. So click this delete, use this template and click review and click save policy, right? And if you wish to give the update permissions too, we can do that. So in this case, I'm going to leave it as it is. And now I'm going to get back to the table editor, and I'm going to create a new table, and I'm going to keep the table as artist, right? So, and over here, we do have the ID created at field, and what are the necessary fields? We need to give the author name, descriptions, followers, and yeah, let's go ahead and create that. So first we need the author, and the author should be a text format. So let's create it as a text. Then description, let's keep it as text. And what else we need? We need the followers, that should be in numeric. Followers, and that should be the numeric. Okay, and what's next? So we need to bring the Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and the profile picture. So let's see, Facebook, and that is going to be text. LinkedIn, and that is going to be text. Twitter, and that is also going to be text. And along with that, we need to bring the what's that one more thing, Instagram. So these are the things that helps the author to follow themselves by using this profile URLs and all those things. And one more thing we need to bring, that is the picture of the artist, and that is also going to be the text. I'm gonna keep it as the text itself. Yep. So these are all the necessary columns, and this table doesn't have any foreign relations, so we don't have to worry about it. All you have to do is to click save. So now it is being created. So it's adding all the 10 different columns for that table. And over here, we have to create one more table, that is the favorites. And maybe in the future, if you wish to have the playlist also, we can create the playlist too. So for the favorites, if you have look at over here, so we have only the two necessary informations, user ID, song ID, these two, right? Because which user liked that song and what particular song that user liked. So that's the thing we need to do. So let's go ahead and create one more table over here called favorites, right? In this case, I'm going to delete this. So don't worry about this warning. No primary keys has been selected, right? So I'm going to create a new column, and I'm going to keep it as a user underscore ID, right? And make this as a primary. Okay, and I'm going to add a foreign key relationship, and I'm going to choose this users table, users, and I'm going to map this user ID with this UUID, and then I'm going to keep this cascade and keep this as a cascade and click save, right? So, and I need to keep this song ID also as the primary key, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one more thing, and that song underscore ID, right? And that is also going to be a primary key, and I'm going to add one more foreign key for that, so which I'm going to keep the users, sorry, not users, which is going to be songs, and I'm going to map the song ID with this particular ID, right? So now the ID is being mapped, and I'm going to keep the cascade and along with the cascade. So if I click save, and now we can see we have both of the foreign key relationships for this favorites, right? And if I click save, now the favorites table should be created. Now we can see it's creating the table favorites. So it's taking some time to create it. Let's wait until it's successfully created. Once it's successfully created, now all we have to do is to get back over here, and we have to create the playlist table also. So if you click the playlist, and you can see what is the name of the playlist and what is the and which user created that playlist. That's all we need, right? Okay. So and along with that, maybe in future, if we wish to customize this table also, we can do some customizations along with that. In this case, currently I'm just going to create the table for that. So playlist, that's all we need to do. And over here, and I'm going to create one more field, which is going to be the title, and the title is going to be the text. All right, and I'm going to create this user underscore ID, and that I'm going to create a new foreign key relationship with the users table. Users field is going to be user ID, mapped it with the UID, and this is going to be cascade and cascade, and click save. So now the foreign key relationship, it's been successfully created. So click save option. So it's being saved now. All right, so now what we have to do is we have to add the RLS policies for each and everything, and we need to map the artist ID inside our song table, because we need to figure it out which artist created the song, right? So now you can see it simply mapped it as a text field. So I'm going to create one more relation to this, and I'm going to map this artist table, and I'm going to choose this artist ID, and I'm going to change this to int, right? Column type doesn't match because we are trying to change the text into int. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete, and I'm going to create one more time artist underscore ID, and now try to create a foreign key relation. Choose the artist table and choose this artist underscore ID column and choose this ID. Now it will be mapped perfectly, and choose this cascade options for both. Whenever the row updated or removed, it should be cascade, which means that it should delete the record in the reference to table 2. So click the save options and click the save options over here. So now every columns and everything, it's been successfully updated, and the columns and everything, it's being created and everything over here. Now all we have to do is to go ahead and add the RLS policies for this, right? So if you click these auth policies, you can see we have the RLS policies for this songs table. And if you click the table editor, choose the artist, and you need to add the RLS policies for the same RLS policies for the artist and for the playlist. And what is the one more thing which we created? Favorites. So let's go ahead and do that now. Click add RLS policies for the artist, new policy, and choose the first one. Use this template, don't change anything else. Click save. Do the same thing one more time. Choose this enable insert, use this template, review, save. Click new policy one more time, get started, and choose this delete access also. Use this template, review, and save. Fail to create the database policy. Okay, I think artist ID in the artist table. What's the issue is showing up over here? Okay, I think it's not providing us the delete permissions. Yes, column does not exist because we don't have the user ID column in the artist table. That's the reason it's not providing that permission. Yes, it's reasonable. Understand, right? So for the artist, it's been finished. And because if you notice here for the artist, we don't have the user ID, right? So that's the reason it's not providing the privileges to delete the artist by using that specific artist ID, because the user, that specific user or any other user doesn't create this artist. It's because this artist has been created by the super admin, right? So we don't have the privileges to delete or alter or anything else. Just we have the privileges to create, or we have the privileges to read it. And even we don't need the privileges to create itself, but anyways, we created it. And for this favorites, let's add the RLS policies. Click new, create started, read access to everyone. And of course, for favorites, we need the insert and delete policy. So over here, insert access, click new policy, and of course it needs to have the permissions to delete by using that specific ID, because we need to enable and delete by using these specific user IDs. So now we have the three policies. For artists, we added the policies, and for customers it's there, and favorite we do have, and for playlists we need to add. So click new, get started, read permissions, save it, and click new policy, and click insert access, review, save this policy, and click new policy one more time, get started, and click the delete access, and use this template, review it, and save this policy. All right, so now we have all the necessary policies for all these tables. Artist, we have 2 policies, and for favorites we have 3, and for songs we have 3, and for the playlist also we have 3, right? So we are successfully created the tables along with their necessary policies and everything, right? All right, so since we successfully have all the necessary tables and we configured the policies and everything, let's go ahead and do the same stuff for our storage over here. So click the storage. So we have to create a storage bucket for storing our audio files and storing our image files separately. So if you click this new bucket over here, so this is the bucket which I'm going to create for songs, right? So if you click the additional configurations, you can choose what kind of extension that it's need to be allowed over here. So I'm going to choose audio slash MPEG and audio slash MP3. Only these 2 types of formats are permitted to be uploaded in our database, in our storage bucket over here. So click. So if you wish to restrict the file upload size for that, so you can choose this and you can give the file upload size. So you have the complete customizations over here, right? So I'm not going to restrict the file upload size over here. So in this case, I'm just going to hit the save option. Okay. And this is supposed to be a public bucket. I forgot to do that. So that is supposed to be the public bucket, right? Because then only, even if you're not authenticated, you can able to see those songs images, right? So now then if I click the new bucket, I have to create one more thing for storing the image, make this as a public, and I'm going to make sure it should have the privileges to upload only the JPG and PNG, or you can simply have it as star. So that will allow you to use any kind of image format. So I'm gonna keep it this and click save. All right, so now we have the storage buckets. For the storage buckets also, we have to enable the policies and everything. So click the policies under the configuration sections. So click this new policy over here. Instead of going to get started and choosing one after another, what I can do is I can go for full customizations and I can enable all these things, and I can simply name it as allow all, and then click review, save policy, and you can see we successfully created all the policies for that storage bucket. Click the new policy, full customizations, and you can see let's say images allow all, something like this, enables insert, update, delete, enable every privileges, click review and click save public, save the policy. And you can see we have all the necessary policies for the image buckets too. So now we successfully created all the storage buckets which is necessary for this projects, and we have successfully created the tables which is the necessary for this policies and all those things. Now all we have to do is to go ahead and manage the front end to work along with this Supabase, and that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so before jumping into the client-side actions completely, so what we need to do is we have to generate the types which is necessary for to working with the Supabase from the front end. So all you have to do is to search for generating types using Supabase CLI. So if you search for this, you can find their official documentation. So click this, and that will takes you to this exact same documentation what I have right now in our hand. So I'm gonna give you this link in the descriptions also. So please click the link in the description and you can directly follow me from there. All right, so I'm gonna copy and I'm going to have it over in the description, right? Cool. So now all you have to do is to follow the exact same commands which they're given up over here. So and keep your project settings opened. So this is our policies, right? This is our projects. And what is the project which you are? Yes, YouTube clone. So I'm going to click the project settings because we need this project settings, this reference IDs and everything. All right. So let's get back here and I'm going to copy this command and I'm going to terminate this. So let me expand this a little bit so that you can see it more clearly like this. All right. So I'm going to close this, clear it, paste that command and hit the enter. So that is going to install that exact same version. So let's wait until it's successfully downloaded. Yep, it's downloaded now. Yes, now it's downloaded. Now all I have to do is I have to click this login, Supabase login, copy and paste that command. And you can say hello from Supabase, press enter to open up and log in automatically, hit enter. And this is our login link and it's been opened up over here. All right, now you can see, well done. Now close this window, you get back to the terminal and you can see if you wish to access your tokens page, so click this tokens page, that will takes you to this token page, right? So this token, but in my case, I already logged in. So that's the reason it's authenticated again successfully instantly. But for your case, what you have to do is it will ask you to provide the access token, right? You will be directly navigated over here. Then there you can create your access token yourself. You can copy the token and you can paste it over here. Just in case if it is not showing up, you don't have to worry about it. If it is asking for give the token over here, you have to click generate new token, give yourself a token name, then it will gives you this access token. And so you can copy the token and paste it over here. So when you're pasting it, you can't see any text over here, just paste it and hit enter. If the token is validated properly, you will get this message as you are logged in. In my case, I am already created myself a token. So that token is already been authenticated. So that's the reason it's been successfully authenticated without copy and pasting anything, any stuff, right? But for yours, it might be different. Okay, so now I don't need this access token, but by the time when you're creating the access token, don't refresh or close this because you can't get that access token again. So better, please copy the access token and paste it properly. All right, so close this. Then what we have to do is now we are successfully logged in. Now I need to create this types. So I need to create the types. So what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to copy this command over here, this command. So I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to paste it. So let me change some things over here. So in this location, the project reference location, we need to give our project ID. So I'm going to delete that project reference over here and I'm going to copy that from our project settings. Click the project settings, use your reference ID, that's the project ID, and I'm going to paste it over here. Then as the same way, it's going to generate the schema under the inside the public folder, and I don't need to create one more folder in that named as types. I need to keep this on the root directory, which is going to be the types underscore db.ts. That's the file name. Okay, so hit the enter, and that's going to generate the types db, all the necessary types which we need to work along with this. And you can see there is no mistakes at all. So if we go here, and you can see we have this types db, and inside this types db you can see all the necessary things to work with the database. And you can see all the types which is necessary for the prices table and the products table. So we have all the necessary types to work with the Supabase through the front end over here. Right now, all we have to do is to get back to the front end and create a couple of providers to work with the Supabase, and that's what we are going to do next. All right, then. So now what we have to do is we have to create the Supabase provider first. So let's go ahead and let me close all these things, close all. And let me get back to our project. So in the root of this directory, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new folder called providers, and then inside that providers, I'm going to create a new file called Supabase provider. So here, let's create a new folder, and over here, I'm going to name this file as providers. In the root of the directory, create a new folder called providers. Under this file, I'm going to create a new file called Supabase providers .tsx. Right, this is the file. All right, so before going to that, make sure that you have stopped your server. Okay, in this case mine is already stopped. Okay, so over here what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this as use client. It's not a server component, it's going to be a client side component. And then I need to install two different packages. One is auth helpers. So we need to have the auth helpers for React and Next.js for accessing the Supabase. So if you search for, click the google.com and search for @Supabase auth helpers Next.js, you can click here. Right, this is the package that you need to use, Next.js, and for that React.js also. This is the package that we need to use. Okay, so I'm going to copy this package, npm install, copy it and paste it over here, and let's paste it one more time. Oops. Oh, wait a second, I made a mistake. Let me delete this. Let me copy this alone, @Supabase auth helpers Next.js alone, and we have to change this. Instead of Next.js, I'm going to change this to React. We need these two different packages, right? So hit the enter, so that will be downloaded. All right, so the reason why we are using the Next.js helpers Next.js, because we need to create a Supabase client, and of course we need to have the helpers React because we need to get the context provider, right? So that's the reason we are accessing these two different packages. Now it's been successfully installed, and let me get back over here. Right, so I'm going to import the database first. So that database, which is coming from @database types.db, which we generated over here. All right, so then all we have to do is to create a prop. So interface Supabase provider, Supabase provider props. Let's open it up, and I'm going to get the children props inside in it, and that is going to be React node. All right, so then what I have to do is to const Supabase provider, Supabase, oops, this is supposed to be base, BASE, sorry for that spelling mistake, Supabase provider, and it's going to be a callback function, something like this, and it's going to have a return block, something like this, and inside over here we are going to have some use states and all those things. And before that, what I need to do, I need to mention this type. So it's going to be react.functional component, and it's going to use this Supabase props interface, and I'm going to get those props over here, which is going to be the children. All right, and inside that, what I need to do is I need to create a use state. So what I'm going to do is const is equals use state. Make sure that it's being imported and keep this custom import on the top of it. All right, So use state, and over here, I'm going to call this function, and inside this, I'm going to get a callback function. And over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a client component, which is going to come from that helpers. So I'm going to import. So import. So from this at Supabase Next.js auth helpers.next.js, we're going to use this create client component client. This is the one. So I'm going to use that function to create. So over here, create component client with the type of this database, which we getting from our types DB, and create the instance. So now I'm going to have that name, the name as Supabase client. So now the Supabase client will have the types of all our databases over here. All right. All right, so now we have ourselves our Supabase client. So then what I have to do is to inside this return statement. So I'm going to get one more package, which is from the React. So we need the context provider. So from at Supabase auth helpers React. So I'm going to get this session context provider. This is the one. So over here, I'm going to get that session context provider. And inside here, I'm going to bring that children. And for the session context provider, I'm going to supply the Supabase client with our Supabase client object. All right. Then all we have to do is to export this as a default Supabase provider. So save these changes. Now let's get back to the layout inside our app. Go to the layout, and this is the one. This things needs to be wrapped inside our Supabase provider. Supply this components inside here. So let's run it up. Clear npm run dev, and this should work properly without any issues. So if it is working, so now we have the Supabase client object, so we can access that Supabase client object anywhere inside the component. So which means our provider, it's been working properly, and we do have configured the Supabase provider properly. Right now we have the complete Supabase client access. So next we have to go ahead and create the remaining providers. All right, then. So now what we have to do is we have to create ourselves a custom hook to handle our user informations, to get the authenticated user information, and as well as the subscription details of that authenticated user, right? So to do that, what I'm going to do is in the root directory, I'm going to create a new folder called hooks. Inside this hooks folder, I'm going to create UseUser.ts. Okay, so I'm going to make this folder as tsx because we're going to have a context provider inside in it. Come on. What happened? I can't right click it. So change this to tsx. All right, fine. So now before moving into this, so what we have to do is we have to create ourselves a custom type. So in the global, in the root directory, I'm going to create this types.ts, right? So I'm going to create this types.ts. So inside this types.ts, we have to create ourselves a custom types. So it's better to type it properly. Okay, so it's better to type it completely. So if you wish to type it along with me, so you can type it completely, or you can simply copy and paste the code which I given below in the description. So click that public gist file, and you can copy this file, types.ts file, and you can paste it over here, because you should not make any mistakes in this types. Okay, so that's a really important thing. You should not make any simple mistakes when you are typing it. So you should be very careful. All right, so before starting anything in typing in this types, so what I have to do is I have to install this stripe so that we can use the types of these stripes. So npm install stripe. So please go ahead and install this. So let's wait until it's successfully downloaded. All right, so now it's successfully downloaded, and in this case I'm going to import that Stripe first. So import Stripe, oops, Stripe from the Stripe. All right, so now we have that. So here I'm going to create export interface user detail, export interface user detail. Okay, that's the type which I'm creating. So ID, of course, it's going to be string type. Then first underscore name, it's also going to be the string, and last underscore name, it's going to be string, and the full name, this is going to be the optional parameter, so use the question mark before. So full name, and that is going to be the string, and avatar underscore URL question mark, and that is going to be the string, and the billing underscore address, so that is going to come from, so make sure that's an optional field that is coming from Stripe. So Stripe dot address. All right, then payment underscore method optional, and that is going to be Stripe dot payment method, open the array bracket, inside here Stripe dot payment method dot type, what kind of type it is, it's a card or any other net banking or anything else. Okay, so just like the same way, what you have to do is we have to create the types for our artists, we have to create the types for songs, products, price, and for subscription, and for every single table whatever we do have inside our project. Inside our project we have multiple tables over here, so we have to create the types for each and every table. So it's better to copy and paste the code which I given below, so we don't want to make any mistakes over here, right? So I'm just going to copy and paste the code which I have listed out in the given below. Just like the same way for user details, for the artist we have to create for each and every field which we created, and for songs, and for products, and for the price table, and for the subscription table. So each and everything you have to create it. So it's better to copy and paste it and put it over here. All right, cool. So yep, so now our types is completely done. So save this file. All right, so next what I need to do is I have to jump into the custom hook which we have to create over here. So use user.tsx, so please open that user.tsx file, and here, so we have to start doing the following changes over here. All right, so what I'm going to do is to let's import the user. So we have to import the user first. So let's get the user from auth helper Next.js. Okay, so now we have the user object. Then import create context from where, from, okay, so create context from the React. So we have to create the context from the React, then import from types. So @/types. From this types I need to get the subscription type and as well as the user detail type. So I need this user detail type, data type, and as well as the data type for the subscription. So these are the types for each and every field which I'm going to use for subscription and for the user details, right? Now here I need to create type user context, type user context. For user context I'm going to create a type. So user context type is equals to, open it. So we have to get the access token. So access token, and that should be a string. If it is not a string, then it should be a null. Either it should be a string or it should be a null. Then we have to get the user, and that should be the user object, or else it should be a null. All right, then user details. For user details, Okay, for user details, so you should use the user details type, or you should use the null. Then is loading, it's a state, so that is supposed to be a boolean. Then subscription, for the subscriptions status, subscriptions, for the subscription, you have to use the subscription type, or else you should use the null. Okay, so this is not supposed to be colon, this is supposed to be R, something like this. So save these changes, you should not get any issues or any type error over here. Then what I need to do, so export const user context. User context is equals to create the context. So you create the context with the type of this user context type. If it is not, create the user as undefined. Okay, so we are creating the context as undefined. Either you should have the user details with this user context type, or you should have the details as undefined. That's what we are trying to create over here. So once you successfully created, then what we have to do, we have to create the props. We have to create the props for the context provider. So export interface props. Okay, so export interface props. So like basically it's like a general prop name, like it can be a general prop name, something like that. Okay, so here I'm going to open a prop. So prop name, and that is going to be a string type, and it can be any. Okay, it can be any prop with a string type. So entire type of the prop is going to be any. So the name of the prop name should be a string. Okay, so now let's create that context provider. So export const my user context provider. So that's what we are trying to do here. Okay, so we are trying to do that user context provider. All right, here it's going to be a function, a callback function, and inside here we are going to get the props, and the props is going to be in this type. All right, so now we have the props. So here what we have to do is we have to extract some couple of things from the session context, which we cannot be use because we wrapped our entire application inside the Supabase provider, right? Because entire application is being wrapped inside the Supabase provider. So we have to extract some couple of informations from the context, from the session context. So what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to get the const. So create the const from where use session context you have to get that from this auth helper react context from this particular this package. So make sure that is being imported from here. Keep this on the top level like this. All right, so from this use session context provider, so what are the objects that I need the session object, then is loading object, then is loading object should be mapped as is user loading, something like this. Then because we have one more object here as the is loading, so this is for the user detail. So we are mapping that user detail loading state as is user loading, something like that. Then I need to get the Supabase client. So Supabase client is the same name as the Supabase, short name as Supabase. So save these changes. Now we have those objects over here. All right. So now what I need to do is I need to remap our Supabase user. Right. I need to use the remap the UseUser as the Supabase user because we already defined one hook as the UseUser. Right. So what I'm going to do is from the session context over here, I need to get the UseUser because this is the hook which is provided by the auth helpers react. So this hook will provide you the information about the user, but this we can't use it. The reason why, because we are already using our own hook name as UseUser. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remap this as use super user, something like this. So that's the reason I'm converting that name. Okay, so then what I do have to do is I have to get that user information from that user. So use super user, something like this. All right, now we have that user information, right? Cool. So now I need to get the access token from where? I need to get the access token from the session object. So const access token equals to session. From the session, I'm going to get that access token. So use this question mark, because if there is no session, then it will throw an error. So we should do the conditional rendering over here. If that access token is not, then of course use it as a null. The reason why we are using the double question marks, so basically double question mark null is this is the nullish coalescing operator. It returns the right hand operator. In this case, it's null. When the left hand operand is null or undefined, whenever this becomes null or undefined, it will defaultly returns this value. Okay, so if the session.access token is null or undefined, then action access token will be set to null. That's the reason we are writing this line over here. Okay, now I have to create 3 more states for storing the information about the user details and the subscription detail of the user and the loading state data of the user. So we have to create 3 states. So I'm going to say use state from the React. So make sure it's being imported. So use the use state snippet. So I'm just going to say is loading data and make it as false. That's the one state. And use state snippet, and another one is going to be user details, and that is going to be initially it's going to be null, and the state is going to be the type of user details. This type, either that, if it is not, use null. Okay, just like the same way we have to create one more state. So use state snippet, which is going to be the subscription, set subscription. Initially it's going to be null, and of course the state should use a very specific type as subscription, or it should have the null. All right, so these are the states now we have in our hand. Now what I need to do, I need to fetch the information from the Supabase. So we have to fetch the information. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a function to fetch the user detail. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say const get user details. That's the function which I'm creating over here. It's a callback function using the Supabase object which we have in our hand. So from that, I'm going to call this users table, users. So make sure that the table name is same, users table. From the users table, I'm going to select every single record, which means all the columns, and I'm going to fetch only the single record, right? Okay, so the Supabase object is coming from where? So Supabase, where it is? Actually, here it is. I was looking for it. So Supabase object is coming from there. Okay, so since once you have your user objects in your hand, then what you have to do, you have to write a function to get the subscription details along with the data which related to that table, the user table, which means we need to get the subscription information of that user too. So let's write a function. So this is the function to fetch the subscription details. So here const get subscription, open it. It's a callback function, and here I'm going to use that Supabase object and using that from, and what's the table name? So make sure that table name is, let's copy this. I'm going to keep that name over here, subscription. So don't make any mistakes while copying and pasting or typing it by yourself. This is really important. So you should not make any mistakes over here. Otherwise, it will become a very big problem to figure it out over here, because this is a very long code which I'm trying to explain what I learned. Okay, so try to follow me over here. So subscription dot select. So I'm going to select every single record, and along with that, because we know that subscription information is shared throughout this prices and this products table, because products table and prices tables are linked together with the subscription. Because when you're subscribing something, the subscription table, you can see it's having the price ID and as well as the product ID too, which product that the user it's been subscribed. So we need to fetch that two informations. So from the prices table, which means from the prices table, I need to fetch the informations too. So fetch the informations from the prices, open the prices and close it. And inside the prices, we have the products information, which product that, so if you go to the prices, you can see, wait a minute, and you can see we have the product ID information, which is coming from where? From the products table. So I need to get the products informations too. So copy. So inside the prices bracket, I need to call this products and I need to fetch everything from that products table too, right? So make sure that this is opened and closed. Look at here, this is opened and closed. Wait a minute, let me break through it so that you can see it clearly. Okay, so select star, let's open the prices. So we open the prices, you can see inside the prices we have this product star. We are fetching the everything from the prices table, comma, then we are fetching the product informations, so which we are trying to fetch the related table informations too, right? So once you selected this informations, after here I'm gonna break this and dot in using the in operator. I'm gonna check the status. So status, 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 comma, it should be this. Either it should be trailing, trialing, trailing, or it should be active. So the status of the subscription either should be in a trailing or it should be in an active status. If it is, say so, then fetch that information. This is what we are trying to do, right? So now all we have to do is to execute the functions inside the use effect hook. So we have to execute all these functions, then only you will get that information details. So I'm going to write a use effect hook. So use effect hook, open it, and it's going to have an array of dependency over here. Inside this use effect hook, I'm going to check the condition. If I have the user object and if not is loading data, and if not we don't have the user details in our hand, and if we don't have the subscription information in our hand, then I need to start checking it. So what I'm going to do, set is loading data as true. All right, then we have to do something over here. Else if I'm going to check one more condition and open it. So the condition is going to be later if not user, or if not is loading, or if not user, and if not is loading data, and if not is user itself loading, then what I have to do, we have to make every single information, set user details as null. There is no user, so make it null. Set subscription informations also null. Okay, so if you have the user, but still if you're trying to fetch the user information and subscription informations, then what we have to do, we have to set the loading state to true, then try to fetch the details of the authenticated user informations and the subscription details. So if you don't even have the user detail and you don't have the loading data and the user data still it's loading, then in a sense it's not, if it is not loading and you don't have the user details in your hand, which means you don't have any user information, we need to make it null. So that's what we are trying to do here. So right after here, what I have to do is to, once I set the state into the true, I'm going to create a promise. So promise, I'm going to return a promise all settled. Okay, so once it's all settled, so I'm going to use an array. So I'm going to supply the functions as an array of functions over here. So get user details. So first I need to fetch the user details. Then I need to get the subscription. So it's not a reference. You need to call this functions directly. So once everything is done, it's going to return a promise. Open it. I'm going to get that results, and I'm going to open a callback function. Open it. So now I have the results in our hand. So first function, what is the first result? That's the user information. What is the second result? That's the subscription information. So const user details promise. So I'm going to get the user details promise from the results first index, and then const subscription details promise. I'm going to get that from the results first index, right? Over here, then if the user detail promise dot status, if the status is equals to fulfilled, which means that we are successfully fetched the details from the promise. So set user details, not from the promise, which means this function is successfully executed, and this function is get called inside this function, this promise, and the promise is fulfilled its status, and we have the detail. So now we are going to set that detail inside this user detail state. Okay, so now from the user detail promise, I'm going to get the value dot, I'm going to get that data as user details. It should match that type. If it is not matching that type, then it will not the data what we are looking for. Okay, now we are not getting any issues, so which means everything is working perfectly as it's supposed to be. Then if the subscription detail promise dot status is equals to fulfilled, if this status is equals to fulfilled, then what I need to do inside here, set subscription, open it, subscription detail promise dot value dot data as subscription. It should match that type. Okay, all right. So once this is what is the thing over here? We are getting an issue. Okay, so we can fix that. It's not a problem. So then what I need to do is so right after here, so we need to make set is loading data as false. So we need to make that is loading data as false. Now the state loading will become false, and this details and everything will be done, and this should be re-rendered every time whenever there is a changes on user details and whenever there is a changes on is user loading state also, right? So save these changes. Now we don't have any type error on all these things, so make sure that you typed it properly, right? So pause the video, or either listen it completely first, then pause it, then type it without any mistakes over here. So now what I need to do is I need to create an object. So right after this use effect, so while the use effect is finishing, over here. So right after there, we're going to create an object. So const value object, this is the one which I'm going to create. So now I do have that access token, then I do have that user information, then I do have that user details, complete informations, then is loading. So is loading, this is the object which we are trying to create, and which is going to be is user loading or is loading data. Use any of this two Boolean values, then return the subscription information. This is the complete information about the user. That's the object which we are creating as a value. Now what I need to do is I need to return this to the user context provider. So return, open it, user context dot provider, and for this I'm going to supply the value object which I created, and I'm going to spread out all the props which is going to be Okay, save these changes, and finally we have to export this UseUser. So export const UseUser, which is going to be a callback function, and here const context is equals to use context. Oops, it's going to be not user context, it's going to be use context hook, which we imported from that. Use the user context for that. If the context which we created is equals to undefined, which means we need to throw an error. So throw new error as use user must be used within a my user context provider. That's the error which we are trying to throw. If not, then return the context. All right. So this is the use user hook which we are trying to use it in the front end. All right. So let's go ahead and let's use this provider in the front end. So now what we have to do is we have to create a new provider to this my user context provider. So for mapping our user details, right? So what I'm going to do is, so this has been, it's already created over here, my context provider. So then I need to wrap this up, right? So I'm inside this provider. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new provider first. So the provider is going to be the user provider. So let's create a new provider over here, and let's use it as user provider .tsx. That's the thing, user provider .tsx. Right now what I have to do is let's make this as the use client. So this is going to be the client component, and import this my user context provider from the use user hook from our custom folder. Make sure that it's imported properly. Then let's create an interface for it. User provider props. Open it. That is going to have a children in it, and that is going to be a React node. All right. Then so const user provider, it's going to be a callback function, and that should use the type of this React.fc, the functional component, and it's using the type as user provider props. That's the props, and I need to get that children props, children. And inside here, now what I need to do, I need to return my user context provider. Inside here, I need to return that children. And at the end, I need to export this default as user provider. All right, this is the thing that we need to do. Now all we have to do is to wrap this up inside the Supabase provider. So we need to wrap this complete stuff inside the Supabase provider, and we need to bring our entire component inside that Supabase provider. So let's go to our layout, and this is the place where we are wrapping our stuff. Inside here, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring this user provider, which is coming from providers, user providers. Make sure it's coming from there. All right, wrap it up, and inside it should have this like this. So let's rerun it. npm run dev. So far nothing is going to happen. If I refresh this, it should load this completely without any mistakes. Let's check it out. So it's compiled and it's been successfully loaded. So far we don't have any mistakes, which means our user, it's working without any issues, which means we have our detail as null, because so far we don't even authenticate it, we don't even create any user. So far the user detail should be null, and the subscription detail is also should be null, which means this code is working perfectly, right? So we successfully created the user. Now let me show you how to authenticate yourself inside here. So that's what we need to do next. All right, then. So now what we are going to do is we have to create an authentication model so the user can authenticate himself, and we have to create a model providers for further models to create an artist, to create a song, to create a subscription stuff, and all those things. We have to create a model functionalities too, and that's what we are going to do in now. So what I have to do is I'm going to close everything over here, close all. And here, let me collapse it. Inside the providers, I'm going to create a new provider called model provider.tsx. And here, I'm going to make this as use client, and I'm going to import something from the React packages. So which is nothing but our use effect, and as well as the use state, these two packages, right? So I'm going to create a function called const model provider, which is going to be a call function, right? And this is going to have a use state, okay, and is going to be is mounted, and initially it is going to be false, which means if there is a model, if it is already mounted on the client side, we need to display that model. If it is not, we need to remove it. But there is a problem. This is a client, and we are also using the server component as well as, right? So if it is a server component, we should not render the model. If it is not, we need to render it, because if you're not properly handling it, you will run into an hydration error, right? So to handle this, what we have to do is I'm going to create a use effect. Inside this use effect, I'm going to set is mounted as true, right? And then if not is mounted, then return the null value. All right. Otherwise, return. I'm going to get the React fragments, and inside here, this is the place where we are going to bring the models. Okay, this is the place where we are going to bring the models, and we are going to export the default value as model provider. Save these changes, and let's open up our layout from the app, and we have to bring that layout inside our this user provider right after here. I need to bring that model provider over here like this. Okay, so once you save these changes, now you should get, so let me refresh it, and you should get this message as models at the top over here, which means everything is working fine, right? So once you did this, once you're making any changes in the providers, please do refresh it. You will get that the models, which means the models it's been successfully loaded. So this is the place where all our models, it's going to be rendered inside here. All right, so instead of displaying this text, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a component inside. So what I'm going to do, let me go to the components folder, and let me create a new model.tsx component. All right, so now what we have to do is we just have to generate a component SFC, and let me name it as the model, and inside here I'm going to create a div, and this is going to be the model component div. Save changes, and let me get our models over here. Model, which is coming from our model component, let's bring to the top of it. Let's keep it clean, and now we should see our model component. The text is changed over here, which means our component is being rendered over there, right? So for creating the model components, so for the model stuff, so the package which we are going to use for that is going to be the Radix UI. So from the Radix, so if you search for Radix dialog, you can see this Radix dialogs over here. So click this Radix UI, and then you can see how they are using this Radix dialogs over here, and you can see some sample codes over here. Like this is the package that we need to use. If you scroll down, you can see that complete package code. So copy this and I'm going to shut down my application, and I'm going to paste it over here and install it. So make sure that it's been successfully installed. And this is how you need to import the Radix dialog. So I'm going to copy this, and this is how you need to structure your Radix dialog, our model component. So let's go ahead and do that. And let me run this npm run dev one more time. Let me run it back, and I'm gonna import that stuff. So I'm going to import it. So where I can import it, let's go to the model, and I'm going to import it at the top of it over here, right? So let me import it at the top of it, import it. Then to close that, I need an icon. So let's use an icon to close it. One moment. Oh my God. Let me drink some water. Yep. So here from the React icons, so for the closing actions, you can see all this closing stuff. I'm going to bring an icon. For that, I'm going to get the icon from the React icons from IO package, and I'm going to get that IO empty close, something like this. Okay, so let's create a the model props. So interface model props, open it, is going to be is open. That's a state which is going to be a boolean value. Then on change, that's a function which is going to be a function, and it's going to return void, nothing. And inside this function, it's going to take a parameter, whether it is open or not, and that is going to be the type of boolean, right? Then the title of that model, which is going to be a string, and the description of that model, that is also going to be a string. And inside that model, what are the things that we are going to render? That's the children, and that is going to be the react node, right? So then we need to make sure that this model is using that proper type, is going to be react.functional component, and inside that functional component should use this model props as its types. Then we need to render all these types from here. Get the children, then is open, then on change, then title, then description. We have to get all these 5 props inside over here, right? So after that, what we have to do, we have to get that, we have to return this stuffs like this. We have to return the dialog.root, then we have to return the overlay, and we have to return the content, then title, then description. One after another, we have to render it over here, and that's what we are going to do now. But if you notice here, we are getting some type error for this model. That's nothing but because we are using these props, but it doesn't know what to do with this. So what I have to do is to change, save these changes, and I'm going to change this title. It's going to be test title, and the description, it's going to be test description, and is open, is going to be open, and on change, that is going to be a simply a callback function for that timing now, and this should expect a children inside this model. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say test for the time being. So now the issue will be rectified over here. So now if I go here and if I refresh this, and still you should not get any error. So let's wait, because after the reload, shutting down my application, I haven't reloaded over here. All right, so far there is no mistakes over there. Cool. So refresh it, no mistakes, and let me get back to the model. So now we can see we having the same model component. The reason is because we are getting this inside that we do have this model component only. So we have to go ahead and design this in this pattern. So what I have to do is first I need to bring the dialog root. So let me get that dialog.root. So that's the dialog root. That's the first thing that we have to fetch from there. All right, inside the dialog root, we need to we don't need the trigger, we can directly go to the portal. So first, before the dialog root needs to have some of the components, the properties on open. So open should always map with the is open state, right? Then default open should always be is open state. Then on open change function should be mapped to this on change function which we have created over here, right? Please be sure if there is a small letter C, then you're using a default event. You should use the capital letter C which we have created, right? Then we have to create this dialog. Oops, not that one. Dialog dot portal. Use this, open it, and inside this dialog dot portal, so we have to create that overlay content. So dialog dot overlay, and for this overlay I'm gonna create some class name. So class name, it's going to be bg neutral 900, and I'm going to divide it by 90. Then, and backdrop, I'm gonna make this as blur a little bit. Then it should be fixed position, and it should be on top of everything, and it should be on the top of the layer, Z15. Then inside this overlay, we need to bring this content. So let me open this content, and let me close this content. And for this content, I'm going to have some class name. So of course, it is going to be the fixed position, and it should have some drop shadow medium, and it should have some border effect, and the border color should be neutral 700, and from the top it should be 50%, and left also it's going to be 50%. Make sure it's a custom written styles, okay, 50%. And let me make it so that you can see the complete thing in a single screen, okay, so I don't have to move here back and forth. So left 50%, and maximum height, it's going to be full height, of course it's going to be full. And from the medium device height, of course it's going to be auto from the medium device, okay. Then from the medium device, the maximum height, maximum height, it's going to be the custom height, which means the 85% of the screen height, viewport height. The width should be full, and from the medium devices onwards, width should be 90% of the viewport width, okay. Then medium device, from the medium device, the maximum width, it should be 450 pixels. That's the maximum width from the medium devices. So translate X, it's going to be minus 50%, which means it should be on the center of the screen, because we make it top 50%, left 50%, so the x-axis should be minus 50%, and as well as we should move the translate Y as well as to minus 50%. Okay, that will be in the center, and the rounded, it should be medium, and BG, it should be neutral 800. Okay, and the padding, of course, it's going to be 25 pixels, and on focus, outline should be none. Okay, then inside this content, I need to bring the title, and as well as I need to bring the description. So let's copy it and let's paste it, and but both of them should not be a self-closing tag, should be something like this. Inside this, I need to bring the title, and inside here I need to bring the description. So far, and inside the description, right after the description, the place where we are finishing it, we need to bring the children. So for the children, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a div, and inside that div I'm going to render the children. All right, so save these changes, and if you check it out over here, now you should be able to see this model component over here, because by default this model is open. That's the reason we are seeing it, but we can't see that close. The reason is because we can't see the close because we haven't added the close button. So right after here, we need to add the close button. So for that, I'm going to use this dialog dot close. So close, and this is going to be as child. Use this as child property, enter, and here I'm going to create a button. So button, And for this button, I'm gonna bring that IOMD close. Okay, and this button is going to have a class name, which is going to be text neutral 400. Text neutral 400. That's the size. Color on hover, and the text color is going to be the white color, and it's going to be on the absolute position, and from the top 3 and from the right side 3. Okay, and it should be inline flux. We are going to use the inline flux. Height is going to be 6, width is going to be 6, and appearance it's going to be none, and items everything should be in the center, and justify the content is also should be in the center, and rounded of course it's going to be full. On focus, I'm gonna make that outline as none. So save this changes, and that's how it looks, right? So now we have this closed options and everything, but what I have to do is we have to make this model component should that open and this open state and this on change action, it should be globally accessible. So for that, we're going to install the Susan, which is going to create that global state for us. All right, so let's go ahead and create that. All right, so let's go ahead and install that Susan package. So this is the package which I'm talking about. Susan. This is the one. Susan. So if you search for it, this is the state management library for the React. Okay, so we are going to install this. So let's go here, and I'm going to shut it down our application, and let's install that SUSTAND. Sustand. So install it, so that will be downloaded. And let's get back over here under the hooks folder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new hook to manage the authentication model. So use auth model .ts. That's the hook which is going to manage the state of the authentication model, right? So over here, oops, I think I reinstalled the same package again, sorry. So let me rerun the server. Okay, so here, now what I need to do is, let's get back here, and over here, let's import create from the Susan from here, right? And let's create the interface from the auth model store. So is open, that is going to be the boolean. Then on open, it is going to be a function which is going to be the void. Then on close, which is going to be the void. All right, now here const use auth model is going to be create, use this type of auth more model, and I'm going to call this function, and this is going to have a callback function with this properties. So I'm going to use this set as a parameter, and inside here I'm going to say is open. By default it's going to be false. Then on open, whenever this function is being called, I'm going to call this callback function, and I'm going to set is open property as true. Then whenever I'm calling this on close function, it's going to call this on close function. It's going to call this callback function, and I'm going to set this property is open as false, right? And by default, I'm going to export this export default use auth model, right? This is it. This is the custom hook which we created to manage our authentication model. And now what we have to do is we have to go ahead and create ourselves a custom component for auth model. So under the components folder, I'm going to create a new component called auth model.tsx, and make sure that is using the use client, and import the model from /model. All right, so const, which makes, let's use the SFC and make sure auth model. All right, and this model is going to return a model, and inside here is going to be auth model children over here or something. over here. And for this model, what I'm going to do is I'm going to return the title. I'm just going to say welcome back. Then description, authenticate yourself using the following providers, something like this. Authenticate yourself using the following providers, then is open. Of course, it's going to be a callback function. Say this changes. Okay, so if you refresh it, currently you don't see any much different changes in that. Everything is going to be same because we haven't used this auth model. So let's go ahead and make that changes. Okay. See, even after refreshing, it remains the same because we haven't changed anything else, because we just created the component, but we haven't used it. So let's go ahead and use it. So in order to do that, what I have to do is let me get back to the model provider. So over here, this is the place where we are rendering this model. So what I need to do, I need to delete it, and I'm going to bring the auth model over here, which is coming from this auth model component. This is the one which I need to render it. So if I save this changes, and you can see we having this welcome back, authenticate yourself using the following providers, which is working perfectly, right? So yep, so what I have to do is I haven't written any styles for the styles and descriptions. That's the reason it's not working fine. So we need to make some styles for this, the title and the description. So for the title, what I'm going to use is, this is the style for the title. And for the description, I need to make it looks like this. Save the changes. Look at that. That's how it should look. Okay. So now it's looking way much better now. All right. So for this children now, what I have to do is over here, I need to bring the UI for the auth model. So I need to bring that. First, for that, we need to install two different packages. So we need to install the UI, Auth UI. Supabase provides you Auth UI, which I'm talking about this. So over here, what I need to do is search for at Supabase wait a second, helpers, not auth helpers, auth UI/React. This is the one, auth UI. This is the one. So you can see there are some sample videos how to use this auth UI. See, you can see different color patterns and different options. So this UI is completely provided by your Supabase itself. This is the thing. This is the packages that we need to use. Auth UI React and Auth UI Shad. So I'm just going to copy these two packages, Shad. Oops, not that one. I'm just going to copy those Shad. Okay, and let me go here and shut down my application. And let's say npm install, paste that, add Supabase, Auth UI React and Auth UI Shad, hit the enter, and please make sure it's downloaded successfully, right? So inside here, as a children, what we have to do is we have to bring this Auth UI component. So that's what we are going to do. So let me rerun npm run dev. So let me rerun it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so now what I have to do is, so over here, so before loading that components and everything, I need two of the objects. So let's get that objects first. So first I need to get the Supabase client. So const Supabase client is equals to use Supabase client from the auth helpers React. Then I need to get the router. So const router is equals to use a router, which is coming from Next navigations. All right. And I need to get the session. So const session. So let's get the session object from the use session context from the helpers React. So these are the three different objects that you need to get from that. The session object comes from this package. So make sure that it's coming from that package. And let's make sure that you're getting your session objects over here. And let me separate these import statements properly. All right, say this changes. All right, so now we have that, but instead of this auth model over here, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna bring that auth. So I'm gonna get that auth UI, which is coming from that UI React. Make sure it is being imported properly from where? From here. Let's bring it to the top. All right, for this auth. So first what I need to do, I need to supply the Supabase client object, which is our Supabase client object. So save these changes. Now if you refresh it, because we shut it down our application, right? So please refresh your application. Let's make sure our server is running or not. Yes, it is server. It's running. Still loading. And here we go. You can see we have all those necessary fields and everything, but it's not quite looking good. So, but what we have to do is we have to use, you have to follow this documentation and start customizing your themes and everything. Okay. If you want to play around with this, just follow this video so that you can play around with these things. All right. So I'm going to make some customizations. So I'm going to use the theme as the dot theme. Oops, theme as the dot theme. So that will change to the dot theme. Okay, and the providers, I don't need all these providers. All I need only the providers is the GitHub. So I'm not going to use all these. I'm just going to use the GitHub provider. So save this changes, and you can see now we are using only the GitHub providers. And so appearances, so appearance, how it should look. So appearance should, let's open it. So the theme, so I'm going to use the theme super, which is coming from UI React, right? So just like the way if you check over here, if you're deleting it and if you're checking it, so you can see you have a lot of themes over here: minimal, theme super, theme variables. There are lots of themes over there. In this case, I'm going to use the theme super. And variables, for the variables sections, I'm going to customize some default variables over here, some default colors. Let's change the brand color, which is going to be hash 404040. Then brand accent color, it's going to be hash 22C55E. All right, save these changes. And look at that. See? And of course, if you need the magic links also for instant login, if you want to keep the magic links up, you can see send the magic link email. If you click this, you can type the email address and that will send the magic link email to the user. They can access it instantly. But in this case, we are not going to use it. I'm just going to ignore it, right? So if you already signed in, so click here to sign in. If you click sign up, you can sign up. So this will provide you a bunch of options, so you don't have to worry about it every single time. So this will provide you a bunch of options like customizing, lots and lots of customizations along with that, right? So what I need to do is, so over here for this, this is open and on change. We don't have to keep it in that way. So what I'm going to do is, we do have that auth model, right? So from the auth model, I'm going to get a very specific, so use auth model. Let's get that hook. From that, I'm going to get that on close and is open, these two functions. Then I'm going to say const on change. I'm going to create an open parameter as a Boolean type. It's going to be a callback function. If not open, if it is not open, then I'm going to call this on close, right? Make sure that is capital letter, otherwise you will get an error. Then I'm going to write a use effect hook. All right, inside here, if we have the session, we are not supposed to. So if we have the session, then router.refresh, then call the on close function, right? So we have to make sure whether we are having the session or not. If we are having the session, then we have to refresh it on close. Make sure this is closed, right? So now all I have to do is to map this is open over here as is open, and instead of this on change, I have to change this to on change. Oops, this is supposed to be this change. Save the changes and refresh it, and now you will not see that that auth model over here, because we haven't changed, because by default the use auth model state is false over here. So in order to change that, what I have to do is I have to get that thing whenever I'm clicking this, right? So what I'm going to do is I have to get inside the site main container, because that's the place where I'm displaying that this user button, right? So what I'm going to do is, for that, over here, right after here or over here, so I'm just going to say const auth model is equals to use auth model. Let's get that. And over here, for that button, I'm going to call an on click event. For that on click event, what we are going to do is, whenever I'm clicking it, I'm going to call auth model dot on open. So you should not trigger it, you should just pass the reference over here. So save these changes, and now if I click this, refresh it, on open. Now if I click this, it should trigger that, but it's not working. Why? Actually, I made a simple Blender mistake. The reason everything is fine, because if you check over here, you can see if I change this state to true, it's working, which means there is no problem with our states and hook and everything. Problem is with our button, it's not clicking. So it took me a long time to figure it out, because I haven't used this properties and the reference. So button is not configured properly, right? So right after here, now what I have to do is I get the type of the button, then I render the class types and everything. Then right after here, I need to use the disable, because I missed the disable property. I haven't used the disable property. So then I need to make this as a disabled also. Then I need to pass the reference. So because we created the ref for that reference, we have to pass that reference. Then we need to render all the remaining props. Then only the on click event will work properly. So make sure those changes and you refresh it. And if you refresh everything properly, and now if you click this, you can see, voila, you can see how coolly it's opening that model, right? So everything is working so far, so good. So now all we have to do is to authenticate the user either by using this or sign in with GitHub. Let's go ahead and do that now. All right then, so now let's try to sign in with the email and password. So over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my email address, and I'm just going to say something over here. And if I click sign in, of course, it's going to give me an invalid credential because I don't have this account yet in my hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this, and I'm going to use a temporary email. So I click login, and if I go here and if I search for temp mail, so I'm going to use a temporary email because we are going to get the confirmation link to sign it over here, right? So I'm going to delete some unwanted browsers tab over here. Okay, so this is the email I'm going to use. Copy it, go here. I don't need this. I think this is the project which we are working. Yes, this is the one. All right, so let me get back to the users table. So far in the users table, we don't have anything. Completely, it's empty. So let me get back over here. And if I click sign up, and if I click this email, paste it, and I'm going to use this password, admin at 123 or something, right? And now if I click sign up, and you can see it's signing up, and you can see check your email for confirmation link. Now if I get back over here, and there we go, we are getting the confirmation link. And if I open it and I get the confirmation link, and if I click this link, you can see it's getting back to the code with that confirmation link. So we are successfully authenticated, right? So if I get back to the users tab, which over here users table, you can see we have the ID, and we don't have this remaining informations, but we have the ID, right? So if you get back over to the authentication, you can see the user information, which email that user is used, and what is the user ID. And if you get back to the user table also, if you get back to the users table, we have that user ID. So we don't have to worry about the remaining URLs and all those things. So far, which we are authenticated. So which means I'm going to use this, and I'm going to get back over here, click this, and I'm going to use the email, and I'm going to type that password, and I'm going to click sign in. There we go. So it's working perfectly. So our user details is saved over there, and everything is working perfectly as it's supposed to be. Cool, right? And now all we have to do is to go ahead and authenticate ourselves using the GitHub, and that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so in order to do your GitHub authentication, so let's open up our GitHub profile. So github.com. So open up your GitHub profile and go to your repository. Wait a minute. Let me go to my repository. Oh, sorry. Click the settings and go to all the way down and click the developer settings and click this OAuth apps and create a new OAuth app, and here give the name as YouTube Spotify Clone, and homepage URL. Of course, the homepage URL is going to be this. So copy this and paste it over here. And the callback URL is going to be get back to your projects over here and go to the authentication and where is the auth? So click the providers and email is already enabled. And if you get back to the GitHub over here, it's disabled. So click here and enable this. And this is your callback URL. Copy this callback URL and put it over here. All right. And then click register application. So click this. And over here, this is our client ID. Copy this client ID and put it back inside here. And client secret. So generate new client secret. Type your password. And then copy this client secret and put it over here, because if you close this, you might lose your client secret, right? So save those changes. Save it. All right, now it's successfully saved. And if I get back over here, if I click this, if I click sign in with GitHub, that should takes me to my GitHub authorization page. Here we go. And if you click this authorize with my account, it should be authorized back over here. So we are successfully authenticated ourselves with our the GitHub account. You can see my GitHub account is authenticated successfully in GitHub. And if I get back to the users table as well as, I can see one more user created over there. Here we go. My name and my URL and everything is there, right? So ourselves, we logged in ourselves with our GitHub. And now I need to display the user records. I can't keep on authenticate myself, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the user information. So I need to get the user information and I need to display that user information inside our I need to render that user information based that information only I need to display it, right? So what I'm trying to say is I'm going to the main container. Right after here, I'm going to get this const Supabase client. Const Supabase client is equals to use Supabase Supabase client. Yes, this is, and make sure that is been coming from here, right? And then right after here, then I need to get the user object also. Const user is coming from UseUser, which makes sure that you're getting from it your custom hook UseUser, right from there. Okay, and let's get the user instance. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one more function, const handle logout equals to, it's going to be a callback function, and this function should be an asynchronous function. And inside here, const, let's get the error. Okay, we are going to get the error. Await Supabase client dot auth object dot sign out. We are trying to sign out the user, sign out, right? If there is any error, we will get that. If not, we are going to refresh the router. So let's get the router. So const router equals to use router from where? From the next navigation. Using the router object, I'm gonna say refresh. Let's refresh it. Yes, if there is an error, if any error it's been happening, I'm just going to say console.log that error. All right, so save these changes, and now let's get back to the bottom, all the way to bottom over here. So this is the place where we need to display the image, right? That's the place where we need to display the image. So what I have to do is I have to display that information. So I have to display that user information. So now I have the user information in this object user over here. So what I'm going to do is this it needs to be displayed, these both of them. So what I'm going to do is over here, if I have the user object, I need to display some, or else I need to display some. If I have the user object, I need to display this division. If I don't have, I need to display this button. Save the changes. Now you will have only the division. The reason because we already logged in successfully, which means we have the user information. If we have the user information, what I have to do, I have to display the profile image URL, which means if the user have the profile image URL, I need to display that avatar URL. So over here, I'm going to render one more time. If the user object is there, and if the user object have that user meta information, inside that meta information, if he is having the avatar URL, so inside that you might have this object avatar URL, copy it and paste it. If he's having that, then what I need to do, I need to render the image. If not, I need to render a paragraph tag. Okay, for inside this image. Okay, so for this what we can do is we can keep this as an image. This image should come from next image. For this you need to supply the source. So for the source, what we are going to use, for the source we are going to get the same thing. Copy this, copy and paste it over here. Okay, copy and paste it over there, and okay, and then wait a minute. Okay, so after here, alternative, let's keep it as empty, then it should fill. Okay, and class name, it's going to be width full, it should be absolute height full, and object cover and rounded full. Save these changes, and now rendering it, we are getting the user object. Okay, so we have to do this yeah, because we are using this image, right? So what we have to do is we have to configure in our next config.js. So we have to configure this images. So what we have to do is open up your next config.mjs over here. Inside this next config.js, what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure this images, open it, and inside the remote patterns, open it. I'm gonna open the array, and I'm going to say inside that object host name is going to be this. Copy this. Let's keep this as array of objects and paste it over here, because later we need to do much more. Refresh it. Oops. I think it stopped. Yes. Let's rerun it. Okay. It is not supposed to be an array because already it's an array. That's the reason. Okay. So if you want to add one more name, you can create one more object and you can add it over there. My bad. Now it's fine. And if you refresh it, you should get that user detail, that authenticated user detail, and it's still loading. And now look at that. You have your image over there. How cool is that, right? So now all we have to do is to implement the authentication. So okay, so all the way to the bottom of this, right after here, I need to bring the authentication stuff, right? I need to bring the authentication part. So only if the user is there. If I have the user object, then I need to bring the user, an icon which is going to have. So let's bring a button, and inside here I'm going to bring that CI logout icon. Save this changes, and now you can see we having this button. For this, I'm just going to say class name. So BG is going to be transparent. Okay, transparent. So save these changes. Now you don't have anything. And for this icon, I'm going to make some changes. So for this icon, let's make the size of this icon is going to be 25, and the class name, of course, it's going to be text neutral 400, and say the changes. This is how it looks. Okay, so for this button, I'm gonna say on click, I'm gonna say handle logout, save this changes. And now if I click this, it should log out. Look at that. If I click here, we're gonna bring it. If I click login, and we're gonna log in one more time, and you're gonna get the data, and you have this function. It doesn't matter how many times you are refreshing it. So don't worry about this slight loading. Later we're gonna fix it, but still you can see that it's working perfectly fine. So we successfully implemented the Supabase database with our front end, and we authenticated successfully, and we successfully handle the user details perfectly by using the context providers and everything. I hope you guys learned a lot, right? So so stay tuned for the next chapter.